Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the supportive viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald at Triopia High School near Concord, in the very building where the late Ken Bradbury, the playwright, directed many of his plays here at Triopia, and where a tribute will be held for him later in September. This building really houses a lot of memories for the people working behind me on some of his music, and for Steve Eisenhower. And Steve, you were a teacher, you were a principal, you were a superintendent in this building, and you knew Ken Bradbury well, and who didn't? Because everybody loved Ken Bradbury.
Oh, everybody loved him. You know, when I first came here, I taught at Virginia for 3 years, got hired at Triopia, and I remember the English teacher over at Virginia said, "You're going to love Ken Bradbury." And I heard the stories about him. I'd heard about the musicals he had written and the type of shows they put on here at Triopia, but I hadn't experienced anything until the spring of '91, and boy, did I experience it then.
Ken Bradbury, not a lot of people know this, was the most published playwright in the country. I mean, he had dozens and dozens and dozens of plays, and in fact, he wrote 28 original musicals just for this school.
That's right, and you know, I was here for a large part of them, and I remember when I first got recruited by Ken, kind of an interesting story that goes along with that was that he saw me in the hallway one day and he said, "Coach Eisenhower," because I coached the high school girls basketball team, he said, "Coach Eisenhower," he said, "how would you like to help with the plays here at Triopia, musicals?" And I said, "Well, Ken," I said, "I'm not a very good singer." He goes, "Oh, no." He goes, "I want you to work behind the scenes." I said, "Behind the scenes? Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, you just report to Chuck West," and Chuck was his assistant. He said, "He'll fill you in." I said, "Okay." Well, it was a couple of days later, one of the good old boy coaches here at Triopia came up to me and said, "Coach Eisenhower," he said, "us coaches here at Triopia, we don't help with the play." And I said, "Well, that's funny because this coach is going to. I guess I'm not an us coach, I was my own coach." And Ken had heard about that and he said, "I'm glad you're not an us coach." And after that, I was hooked.
Well, listen, you had the idea, you and some of your colleagues had the idea that we ought to do a review of Ken's work because he just passed away not long ago. And people are still thinking about him, and they will forever, but especially now, it's a very painful time because people miss him a lot. So let's do a review of Ken's work. And so all of this is going on, and you're going to have two performances late in September. How did this idea come up?
Well, you know, I actually, it's funny because a year or so ago, I'd seen Ken out somewhere and mentioned to him, I said, "Don't you think it's about time we do a relay, you know, do something different, one of the shows, you know, bring back some music, something of some of your shows you've done out here at Triopia?" He said, "Ike," he goes, "I got so many things going on, I'm just not ready for that yet." I said, "Well, Ken, I really think people would enjoy it, and I think you'd get a lot of people come back." Well, then he did pass away, so one day, Mary Jane Millian, who works for the ROE, was up visiting me back in late May, and I ran the idea by her. I said, "You know, what do you think about, let's try to get some of the old cast members together from some of the old shows that Ken did, and we'll put on some type of musical review here, you know, make it pretty simple." And it's grown larger since then, and the thing about it was she liked the idea. We kind of put it together. We got Chuck West back, who was very instrumental in all the shows here at Triopia working with Ken, and I think it's going to be a great thing on September 28th.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And as we go through this program, we're going to talk to some other folks who also have fond remembrances of Ken, and we'll get to hear a few of the numbers.
So I think you'll look forward to it, and we're looking forward to the end of September, so thank you. Okay.
Keith Bradbury, it's kind of touching to know, isn't it, that the community wants to do something to honor your brother Ken, like this review that they're going to do of his work.
To let his work live on is really an honor to the family, and it says so much for Ken too, because he really loved this school. He loved the Triopia School and all the Dutchmen that lived therein. He joked about that a lot. He loved the school, and he worked not only with the school for over 35 years, but he worked with churches in the area and camps in the area and all kinds of venues. He worked with the state associations for teachers institutes. He would speak on nothing really. He would go and talk about, I'd say, "What are you going to talk about?" He said, "Nothing." And that's usually what it was. It was more of an inspirational people knew Ken, they trusted him, and they liked him.
He was an inspiration, and particularly in this part of the state, from Jacksonville to Beardstown to Concord to, well, all over the west central part of the state. Everybody knew his name because he had done something for every group at some point.
Yeah.
And he was very gifted.
He touched a lot of people, really, I often thought, Ken was a man of faith, and he probably touched more people, and especially children, than any minister ever did. Just because of the venues that he put himself in. The Green Pastures Camp is a good example. Hundreds of kids, thousands of kids over the years came there, and each knew him, and each had at least a one-on-one moment with him that time.
As you and I sit here in the gym, there's a group rehearsing for the review behind us, and they're going to do some songs for us. And the first one they're going to do is one that's kind of kicky, and it's about the ghost biker. Is that what it's called?
Ken loved the 50s, and I'm not sure why. I suppose the costumes were cheap. He could put them together pretty cheap, because his budget was pretty limited many years to do the shows. But it also gave him an opportunity to, much to the chagrin of the administration, to bring motorcycles into the gym.
Oh yeah.
He would bring a motorcycle not into the gym but right up on the stage, and it was quite a thrill for everybody when they did that. This song is from a show called Shangamine, and it's all set in the 50s because that was his favorite era, and it's called Ghost Biker.
Shouted my name as he flew overhead. You'll never escape the ghost biker, he said. You look at my cycle, by morning you're dead. Ghost biker in the night. Boom ba ba doom 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 ba ba ba. Boom ba ba doom 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 ba ba ba. Boom ba ba doom 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 ba ba ba. Ghost biker.
Bruce Surratt, okay, you were a student here at Triopia.
Yes.
And you weren't that much younger than Ken Bradbury.
No, I tell you.
He was fresh out of college. He came here, this is his first job, and he's probably teaching everything. English, communications, art, he's probably teaching everything, but drama, theater is really his thing, isn't it?
It was unbelievable. When Ken showed up, I was a freshman in 1971, so it was his second year of teaching. And all we knew at Triopia was we liked our sports. We loved our football, we loved our basketball. We, through the course of history, we won practically 80% of everything we ever played. So we were just a sports school, and that's what we're known as. But when we got into meeting Ken, it was like speech class and do a play and go compete against other schools. We loved it. I mean, had all the football team was on the in the cast on the play. Same way with speech class and stuff
and
like that.
And they never thought they would get involved in that kind of thing.
We never.
In fact, you went ahead and got on the speech meet team, right?
Yes.
And you would travel around to the bigger districts and didn't do too bad either, did you?
We were champs again. We were champs again. He had us prepared, and we'd have a little school bus, and it wouldn't be full, and we'd go to somewhere like Quincy or an area like that, and we'd come home with a lot of blue ribbons. And he did that. He made us into a team. And it was just another facet that we're winning, but we also met people. We got to, see each other outside of school in a different way.
And all the new skills that you learned, new skills and a new approach to life.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a big tackle named Roger Nerganol on our football team, and a big kid, just a beautiful voice on him. You would never expect that, and he just brought everything out. He made you want to be part of it. And the fact that he was a genius, he was a friend of mine for 50 years, and to be able to hang around with him and do stuff with him, it was just an incredible honor for all of us.
We just stepped out of the gymnasium where all of these plays were produced over all these years, and what the community has done is they've made this quilt. It's a composite of the plays, some of the plays that Ken wrote and were produced in this gymnasium, and you can get a sense of the care that the community has for him after all this.
They've always been very supportive of everything that the students here have done, but they certainly, Coach Kemp was our football coach here for 38 years, and Ken was here for 35 years, and they adopted both of them, and they were our heroes. You know, we'd do anything for them. The community would do anything for them. And to have a high school play where people would line up hours before the play started to get a good seat, just doesn't happen.
28 original musical plays he wrote over the period of 35 years for students. This is in addition to what he was doing for the community theater, but for students. And you know what? Nobody had more fun than him.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. He enjoyed every bit of it. When we do the Follies, the Passman's Follies were something that were done about every 3 years, and he would write a special play up for that. And he would involve everybody that wanted to be in it in the hospital. So you'd have some doctors and retired doctors in their 80s up on stage dancing and singing. It was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Brought out the best in people, didn't
But
he?
he did.
Yeah.
He certainly did. He made it fun.
Yeah.
He made it fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
You bet.
Keith, I think we mentioned earlier in the program that in those 35 years, now he wrote a lot more than 28 musicals, but he wrote 28 musicals just for the Triopia students
that was
to
just
perform, just at Triopia.
Then in the summer times, he usually had a traveling theater, sometimes two in the summer, and they did indeed do that. They went from town to town, and it wasn't a minstrel show by any means. It was a written theater production, and so he was always busy with that or something somewhere. He also wrote many pieces for communities in the area. Let's say Beardstown had some sort of centennial coming up. They'd call Ken and said, "Would you do a show depicting our history?" And he'd say, "Sure." And he did about 25 of those in the communities around the area. He also did Follies shows for Passman Hospital. And these shows were quite the phenomenon because we would have doctors and nurses and people who really didn't have any experience. I started saying no any talent, but they had talent.
They just didn't know it, right?
And Ken didn't really care if you had talent or not. He'd make you get up there and do it anyway. But the Follies were enormously popular. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over 3 Follies.
Yeah.
That money went to the Passman Auxiliary, and then they decided what to do with it from there. And it was highly successful and huge cast, great big cast. The next song they're going to do it was done in 1999, and it was called Children of the Rainbow. But also in 1999, he did a show called Bradbury by Bradbury. The other name for it was Cries of Faith, and again, Ken's faith into it. It was a series of one-act numbers, and they're doing that again in November at Illinois College this year. So the dates escape me right now, but it'll be at Cybert Theater at Illinois College. Bradbury by Bradbury is how that will be billed rather than Cries of Faith. It was performed at the University of Illinois and was highly successful over there. But this next song that they're going to do is from Children of the Rainbow, and it includes a lot of biblical connotations, if you will. But when Adam first encountered Eve is a good example. That had to have been quite a meeting. And so Ken decided how that should have been. A lot of what Ken did was not what actually happened, but how he thinks it should have been. and this is one of those examples. This is Children of the Rainbow, and it's a song called Hey Papa.
Did you let creation go too far? What if he turns away and breaks your heart? What if he runs away right from the start? What are you gonna say? What have you made to
runs away right from the start. What are you gonna say? What have you made today?
Hey Papa, what are you gonna do? Hey Papa, what are you gonna do?
Keith, you mentioned earlier that your brother was a man of faith.
He was.
And it came out in his music a lot of times,
It
didn't
did. And you know, he wasn't afraid to do it. You know, in today's world where spirituality in a school is not really acceptable, sadly that's happened everywhere, and that never bothered Ken. It never stopped him. His cast prayed before every show, always. And he basically told whoever didn't care for that, then, you know, leave, we'll be done in a minute. But that never happened. As far as I know, that never happened. And everybody knew it. Everybody, the parents, everybody's aware of it, and everybody was on his side for it. So yes, faith did enter into his plays, almost all of them, and certainly into his music. And the next song that they're going to do is one that a young man has completely lost his faith in God, and they don't know what to do. They just did what they knew how to do best, and that's they prayed for him.
Please don't ask me questions I can't answer. I only know the one thing that is true about the simple man I call my master, and how he shows his love to me for you. I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you. It's the last thing I ever do. I'm gonna keep on praying. If it's not the things I feel, but the one in me who's real. My God inside me says, keep praying. It's not your past that brings him sorrow, but what you right now do and say. You can walk away from me tomorrow, but please don't turn your back on God today. I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you. If it's the last thing I ever do, I'm gonna keep on praying. If it's not the things I feel, but the one in me who's real. My God inside me says, keep praying. My God inside me says, keep praying.
Allison, what's it feel like to now, at the age of, what, about 35?
Yes.
Okay. To sing your high school play music again? Mr. Bradbury's not here anymore, and to go over it all again and to do it again, what's it feel like?
Gosh, we're even in the same room where we
That's
had
right, the same space. Yeah.
several hours of and nights of practice, and it's bittersweet. I mean, obviously, it's not the same, but what fun! And I'm getting to do this with people I watched when I was growing up. You know, they were in these shows, and now I'm getting to do this. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it remind you of, like where Mr. Bradbury is concerned? What does it bring back a lot of memories about working with him and what that was like?
Oh, sure. We were so fortunate to get to learn from him, and always had encouragement for all of us. And, it's going to be really fun, but it's It's
You
hard
might
not to
you
see
might
him
cry.
here.
You might
Oh,
cry.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever think that, if it weren't for Mr. Bradbury, maybe I wouldn't have been involved in theater, or maybe I wouldn't have wanted to sing, or maybe none of that would have happened? I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't done any musical theater since I got out of high school, so that was it for me. We did our final bow my senior year, and you just kind of knew when that was over that we'd really gotten to do something once in a
Kinda
lifetime,
special, huh?
and because of him.
Well, then how did you get back into it now, these many years later?
I still live in the Triopia area, and a lot of these people are my friends, and Chuck West is still a good buddy of mine. And
Chuck is one of the men
he
that was on the
is.
guitar here
Yes.
today, right?
Yeah. I had him for a teacher in high school, and when I got asked, I jumped at the opportunity. I'm getting to sing songs that I didn't sing in shows, but I saw other people sing. So it's cool. I'm stepping in somebody else's theater shoes for the night. It'll be fun.
And if Mr. Bradbury could be here, would he want to be directing, or would he want to be in the audience, you think?
Oh gosh, I think he was always a little bit of both anyway. I don't know. It's different not having him here.
Oh, I know.
That's who we would look to, obviously, but he'll be in the audience. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Luke Crawford, the story was that you and several generations of your family have either sung with or for Ken Bradbury along the way. Tell me the story.
Yeah, well, so I grew up in the Orangeville Methodist Church, and Mr. Bradbury was the piano player there. And so all my life, he's been in my life. And so my dad played in a band with him in Shiloh.
That was the name of the band, Shiloh?
Shiloh,
Okay.
yeah. And so I got the chance to tag along with them. Sidebar for you, one of my favorite birthdays. I turned 7. And, Shiloh was playing in Perry, Illinois. And Mr. Bradbury, surprised, I would always tag along in the band van. And so we get to Perry, and KB's from Perry.
Right.
And we get there, and long story short, his mom had made a birthday cake for me. And so they had this huge celebration, and when I was 7 years old, all 5 of those Shiloh guys were walking on water, larger than life.
Oh, sure.
So we had the birthday party in the basement. Mr. Bradbury serenaded me by himself. Like, it was that time when I just figured out, this man is cool. But for a 7-year-old, for that guy to be.
Okay, so he plays piano at your church.
Yeah.
And he's in your dad's band.
Yeah.
And then when you get to high school, did you go to high school here?
I came to high school here. I graduated
So
in 98.
he's also your drama teacher, your theater teacher.
That's right.
Probably English and communications and everything else that has to do with the humanities, huh?
Yeah.
So then he's your teacher.
Yep.
And then he's kind of like a coach too, because that's what a director is,
Oh,
right?
he was, yeah.
Yeah.
He had a way about him where he could set you on your heels and really, maybe as a 7th grader, deflate that ego that was maybe getting a little out of control, but in a way where it'd be encouraging and kind. So in my life, I've got 5 people that I would say are those core that are going to be the first people I hug when I get to heaven, and he's one of those 5. Like, he's just that guy that everything I still do today, he impacts it.
You're pretty sure he's there in heaven?
100%. I don't think I have a question. Yeah. I think there's probably 2 million people lined up ready to say thanks for all he's done here.
What did it feel like to come back here and sing his music?
Oh man, the memories, the feelings, just being in this gym where we used to do it. It's hard to describe that sensation, but it's like I can still hear and see what he would be thinking while I screwed up some words or what I did. Like you can just see him rubbing his head.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not the mistakes. It's if you didn't try, that would be the worst thing. But if you try and don't get it perfect,
right,
big deal, right?
Yeah. But he was such a good encourager, and he always was an enabler too. That was the thing. He was always doing something like this, where he's like, "Hey, I need you to do this with me," or "Would you like to be a part of this?" Where he was just good at bringing people alongside him. Didn't let you sit on the sidelines long and not share your talent.
Yeah.
So.
And if a kid was reluctant to get involved, I don't think there's anybody that cared more and found a way to get those kids up front and get that
100%.
to get them to become outgoing.
When we graduated in the late 90s, everybody from our class participated in these plays. And that's kind of unheard of in the school districts now. If you weren't in the play, you were in the production side. You were doing spotlights up high on the scaffolding. You were helping set the stage. Like, all of us country kids were just involved, and he was good at just getting people fired up and excited about theater.
Yep. Well, thanks for visiting with us, and good luck tonight at the review, because you'll be singing part of it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
This gymnasium at Triopia High School is empty now. This place where all those plays were produced over all those years by Ken Bradbury. But on September 28th, when that review happens, in the afternoon and the evening, this place will be rocking. With another Illinois story in Concord, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.